15:21 session surgery. I'm gonna go over the charts for all of you right now. I'm gonna make it very, very simple. I'm gonna strip down the previous three sessions, including the current running right now. So we're gonna go backwards, yeah, from here backwards into Asia, and then London, and then New York. I'm gonna show you exactly how this move pushed, not pushed, but how this move actually came into life. If you want to call it life, let's call it life, yeah? So Asia opens up at 12 o'clock. What's the main objective for us? Find the first low or the first high. So over here, Asia prints the first low at the open. If you just zoom in, get a mouse and just zoom in, look at this, flat bodies to the downside, one, two candles with the flat bodies to the downside. That is your first low. And then if you move over to, so you have your first low over here, one, two, yeah? We're looking at previous session to the upside, but we're looking at the current session right now, yeah? Let's forget that New York even exists, okay? We're just gonna look at this from here, from the open, right here. So Asia opens up. Now Asia's inventory is actually open the moment it prints the first low or the first high, whichever one is printed first. It doesn't really matter, okay? So the first low printed. Cool. So we have the first low now. All right. So Asia inventory is open. First low printed. If you look at the previous recording, I did say that the moment inventory is open, the session has the power, yeah, to control previous session's discovery. Okay. Does that make sense? So the session, yeah, has the power to control previous session's discovery. Otherwise, the market's going to be all over the place. Do you know what I'm saying? If you go NY, which is the previous session, so the session before Asia is New York. If NY is to the upside overall, meaning long inventory, and it's all going to make sense because if you want to really, dive deeper into pure pristine, execute, like, you have to understand one thing. Execution is expensive, so you have to be on point. Does that make sense? If you're not on point, then you're going to get stopped out. You're going to miss maybe 10, 15 pips into your stop loss arrangement, and then you might get stopped out because you just didn't focus or didn't really do the homework. Now, if you look over here, if NY is to the upside, long inventory, yeah, the discovery is also to the upside. Now, that discovery gets passed over to Asia. So now Asia, yeah, Asia has two ways to stop this discovery. Number one, if you guys remember, it's the 1.18 and 1.27 fib, okay, which you drag it from the previous session, and then you wait for, if you don't have the inventory open, so if Asia hasn't printed the first low or the first high, this is going to be the stopping point. Asia's 1.18 and 1.27 fib, that's going to be the stopping point, okay? If the fib is too far away, if the levels are too far away, you want to wait for the first low or the first high. Cool. So back to the sentence. Asia inventory is open the moment the first low or the first high is printed. So we have the first low here. Cool. So now the moment the first low is printed, you want to start observing the breaches. Okay, the breaches and the first high, because we also need to keep an eye on the first high, because the moment the first high is printed, we have further breaches. Does that make sense? So if you look over here, yeah, 23:45, 12 o'clock, that's Asia's first low. We have breach one to the upside at 12:15, and then we have breach two back below at 12:30. Now this is your first high printed. So Asia prints the first low, Asia prints the first high. All right, cool. So we have the first high. Then we get breach one to the upside and breach two. Now the breach one to the upside and breach two belongs to the first high. But if you look carefully, look at the first low here, 23:45 and 12 o'clock. We have breach one to the upside, 12:15, and we have breach two at 12:45. So this candle 12:45, it represents breach two for the first low, and it also represents breach one for the first high. Cool? Yeah. So Because this candle 12:45 represents breach 2 for the first low, this candle becomes the excess candle at 1 a.m. So price, respects the excess candle and then it pulls back below into first low to print breach 1 to the downside and then breach 2 back above and then the excess. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? First low printed, yeah. Breach 1 to the upside printed, yeah. Line the crosshair up, breach 2, 12:45, excess back, and then money comes back below. So money gets picked up from here and then dropped over here. Very, very simple. I can't really, use complex words to describe candlesticks. It's either first low, first high, one candle up, two candle up. Does that make sense? So we have the breach 1 and breach 2, which belongs to the first high. But this candle 12:45, yeah, it's representing, yeah, breach 2 for the first low, and it's representing breach 1 for the first high. So you have to really be on point with this, because you are going to miss a move like this, which is a 400 pip move in one candle based off the excess candle. So please, 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 it doesn't really matter if a breach is a breach. Yeah, a breach could be 500 pip, it could be 100 pip, it could be 200 pip. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so what is all of this? It's a mechanical approach. The reason why I go over this on a daily basis, or I'm kind of late on this, but anyways, the mechanical approach, so that you don't, allow any sort of emotions to get involved. Because I've been there, I know exactly what it is to feel flipping fucked because you missed the read. So make sure your read is on point, and it's only going to be on point if you have the mechanical approach. All right. So now check this out. Now we understand that the first low is here. We have breach 1. This is the micro breach 2. We don't have the macro breach 2. So what that tells us that Asia downside here, this area 4605, unresolved inventory. Sessions are gonna drive itself and carry themselves lower into 4593. And this is how the market chases the breaches. And you guys are gonna understand this in a second once I get to London session. So cool. Upside breach is complete. Downside breach is pending for Asia's first low. Okay, that's it. Make a note of this. Write it down. Pen and paper. Make a note on your phone. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Make a note somewhere that you can always just come back and have a look. Or make notes on the charts if it's easier. So Asia's first low is here. Breach 1 to the downside. We need one more breach, which is still pending. And the excess candle. Okay? Cool. We have breach 1 and we have micro breach 2. But the micro breach 2 is not enough, especially when the market has continued to push higher and higher. Now, let's move over to London. Okay? London session opens up at 8. It prints the first low here, 8:30, 1, 2, 8:30, 8:45. We have the moment the first low was printed, again, Discovery is in control now. Yeah. So this push to the upside is not Discovery. It's not Discovery. Okay? Because Discovery is in control the moment the first low and the first high is printed. So I'm going to show you exactly what all of this is to the upside. So look at the first low here, 8:30, 8:45. Yeah. And then we have this candle, 9 o'clock, which prints the first high. So first low, 8:30, 8:45, first high, 8:45, 9 o'clock. We get the downside breach 1 and then breach 2 back above. So breach 1, macro, breach 2, micro. We have a full body closure, but the breach 2 is also pending. This is your micro breach because it's closed back above. We need one more breach back below, which is pending. Yeah, so keep that in mind. Breach 1 here, breach 2 pending below this breach 1, and then we've also got breach 1 here and breach 2 pending below breach One, two levels, exhibit A, exhibit B, pending. But let me exactly show you why this move to the upside happened. So in order to go lower, yeah. 1 second, yeah. Let me just drink some water. So in order for price to push lower, it needs to print breaches above. So look at the first low, 830, 845. Line the crosshair up, yeah? Line the crosshair up. Cool. That's your first low. And the first eye is over here as well. Cool. We need two breaches above the first low. So the first eye is here. We get breach one at 11 o'clock, which belongs to the first high. We get breach two, 12:30, which belongs to the first high. So let's remove the first high, higher area. Breach one, breach two, complete. Cool. Now we need an excess candle. So breach one, 11 o'clock. Breach two, 12:30, which belongs to the first high. Excess candle, 1400. You guys can see price came right back below. Excess candle respected. Cool. So let's leave that for a second. First low, 830, 845. Line the crosser up. Breach one, 12:30. Yeah, line the crosser up. Breach two, 1400. This candle, 1415, is the excess candle now. So money is held over here. And money is also held over here. Does that make sense? Does that make sense why price continues to push higher? It's not because of Asia's discovery being passed over to London. No, not today, not now. The moment the first law is printed, inventory is open. Yeah, discovery is in control. So the discovery is in control of, the moment the first law was printed. If the first law wasn't printed and price started to push higher and higher, then that is Asia's discovery in play. Okay, so then what you'll be looking at is you will be looking at Asia and London fib and the 1.27, a break above 1.27, and then a pushback below. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, okay? Because now I'm going to test you. Not you, but the market's going to test you. So you guys know that we have an area which is going to release money. We saw it once, we saw it twice, and again. Cool? So my question to you now is that just because we have a Nexus candle over here doesn't mean that NY is going to forcefully clear this low. The sequence also needs to play out over here. Cool? So now again, London to the upside. NY is London's discovery has been passed over to NY. So NY is in discovery mode. We haven't seen we haven't seen the first high printed. This is not your first high. Let me just double check. Yeah, this is not your first high, uneven. And then the first low, this is not your first low, it's uneven. So right now NY is in discovery mode. Okay? NY is in discovery mode. So if you took shorts from the excess here, 200 pips, fair play. Close it, move on. Come back once NY opens its inventory. Because right now, the discovery is in no man's land. Nobody has the power. Nobody has the control. The discovery is freely floating. So what you want to do is you want to be in control of the session. Does that make sense? In the same way Asia was in control of that discovery, London was in control of the discovery, because now you can have a defined direction to trade into the moment you understand this concept here. So wait for the first low. The moment first low is printed, something like this, wait for the first high, and then wait for the breaches either above or below, wait for the delta, and then you get your best A plus trades. Because now the discovery is inside the session's hands. Yeah, the session has control of the discovery, and the session also has control of the breaches. So the session will print those breaches in the direction that it needs to. So the moment NY prints the first high, first low, and let's say it starts to print upside breaches, then we know exactly what needs to be done. NY needs to print downside breaches, vice versa. Does that make sense? So this is how you really strip down every single session on a daily basis, rather than trying to just trade because you feel like you want it to drop or you want it to go higher. That's not how it works. This is how it works. Does that make sense? Um, Again, going back to the going back to the start, going back to the point which I mentioned at the start of at the start of the recording. I said that if you drag the fib, stopping point one is going to be the 1.18 and 1.27. But I would still wait for the first high and the first low, because the moment inventory is open, we know exactly what to do. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this there, and I'll check in later on. Um, yeah, I'll check in later on.